Hi, everybody. It's Heather and Melissa from the BC Association of Farmers Markets back at you with another webinar recording. And we're really excited to do this one today. It's, as you know, we all, not all, but a lot of our markets launched an online market store to go with their in-person markets this past summer in response to COVID. And there's also a bit of a consumer demand for that kind of online shopping that we're seeing just generally before COVID and now with COVID. So the purpose of today's webinar, we're calling it Save Time, Shop Online, and how to sustain your online farmers market. So a couple of different scenarios about how do you pay for your market to continue with an online farmers market store in addition to your in-person store, so that you're expanding your sales channels and all kinds of opportunities for customers to support your market and your vendors. So we're really pleased to have Melissa back today to go through some options and scenarios with how do you sustain that online store. And I'll pipe in a little bit here and there, but I'm the Executive Director of the BC Association of Farmers Markets. And Melissa, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm the Executive Director for the Fraser North Farmers Market Society, which runs both Maple Ridge Farmers Markets and Port Coquitlam.
Very good. So I'm going to turn it over to Melissa. Yeah, maybe we'll just go to the slide 2. That's where we're both the intro slide there, and then Gab, will you flick the switch to the next slide? Okay, so we got a little technical difficulty there. So I'm going to let Melissa take it away from here, and I'll come in and out of the broadcast as needed. Thanks, Melissa. Over to you.
Thanks. Are we going to have the slides roll?
Yeah, that's the plan. I think Gab must be having some issues doing that. There we go.
Oh, there she is. Hi.
I'm turning the slides. They're supposed to, don't you see them?
I only see the first one.
Okay, let me just check what's wrong. Says that it's paused. Just 2 seconds. Is that okay? Okay. Sorry about that.
Good to go. Okay. So hello, everybody. Glad to have you here. And we're going to talk about a topic that is now dear and dear to my heart because of this whole COVID situation. So everyone is probably aware that there has been a big launch and rise of online farmers markets since COVID occurred, and we've been kind of in lockdown or shut down since March. And one of the things that you want to think about when you're considering adding this option to your existing farmers markets are the whys. And a lot of that has to do with what the benefits are of adding an online farmers market store feature to your existing farmers market. So some of the things that we're going to go through are the fact that you get to retain your vendors all year round. This is a really important feature. And so you get to meet the vendor demand that they want to connect to customers online if they haven't already done so. And there's also, you're offering an additional complementary sales channel to your existing in-person market. So you're really hitting it out of the park here for vendors, because if they don't already have an online channel to sell their wares, you're practically giving them this opportunity to sell to an existing audience that is already understanding the importance of shopping local. Another awesome benefit that you get to have with having an online farmers market store is customer attraction. Now, we feel that so far our experiences at Fraser North has been that it doesn't take away from the existing farmers market that we have on site. It actually checks the boxes of folks that will have the demand for online shopping convenience. So those folks that are doing the click and collect and are shopping from Save On Foods, it's actually brought them to us instead, because we're offering this opportunity to shop online and to go and pick up from our farmers market. And it's also been meeting the customer request for safety during COVID. So we've just put out a survey, which we got a feedback from our customers, and they were so grateful that we had taken extra measures by having an online farmers market so that they could feel safe and less anxious when supporting local food. Another good benefit for having an online farmers market store is that you get to extend your market season. So if you only operate in the summer, you can keep an online farmers market going year round. So you have that opportunity to have a presence for the winter market season as well. Next slide. Also, if you've got really great staff, nothing makes you sadder than getting rid of them at the end of market season and having to lay them off. So if there's a way for you to run a sustainable model where you get to keep your staff and volunteers year round, then it makes it so much easier in the spring when you open up your farmers market again, because you've still got your farmers market manager or your volunteers or the folks that are that important, incredible aspect of your market, the people that basically have the vibe of the market in retention all year round. And last but not least, very importantly, it's another way for your farmers market to have revenue for your operating budget. So you can collect vendor fees in addition to the vendor fees that you're already getting for the farmers market in person. And you can also leverage those fees for paid marketing and promotional opportunities. There's a lot of things that you want to consider though before you start an online farmers market, or if you're continuing operating your farmers market online as well. So things that you might not think of is it actually takes a lot of people power to put this on. You might, have chosen a platform where the vendors upload the products themselves, and some vendors might be awesome at that because they're very intuitive when it comes to online, but some might not be, and they might need a little bit of hand holding. So what you really want to think about is, how are you going to manage your staff time to run this online farmers market? Are the staff going to assist the vendors with uploading products, checking out their photos, seeing what the descriptions are like? Because that customer experience, when people are shopping online, it's all about the photography, it's all about the descriptions. You need to make them feel with their eyes what they're buying. So you've got to start thinking, how are you going to generate that revenue to sustain your online farmers market? Are you going to charge fees? How is that going to work for you? Are you going to do a pickup point for your online orders? So are you going to have the vendors responsible for pickup at their booth or at their location or delivery? Or are you going to create a model where everything is delivered to one location, like when you're operating a farmer's market, and the customers pick up from one point? That's something you really need to think about. Who's going to be responsible for marketing your online farmers market and driving sales? You can build a website and you can build a store, doesn't mean anyone's going to shop there. So you still have to do good old marketing and do email newsletters and start doing those ads on Facebook. You've got to get your vendors involved. Everybody needs to be marketing this online store. You also should have a clear agreement with vendors on your roles and responsibilities of each party for the online farmers market. So it's one thing that your vendors upload their products and their images, and then they just sit back and go, oh, well, the farmers market will take care of the rest. So you just need to be sure that everyone understands that, okay, yes, the vendors are responsible for providing staff or uploading their own products, but you're both responsible for marketing the farmers market online. You're both responsible for having that quality product go out to the customer now, because it's associated with both brands. So these are things that you really have to think about. There may be, specific to your community, other things that you have to consider as well. So it's really good to go through this list and also to maybe brainstorm and add some other points prior to jumping in with both feet. There is cost associated for your farmers market to run this kind of platform. You may not think that the staff time adds to much. Maybe it's an hour here, maybe it's an hour there. But overall, the online store management can end up costing you a lot in staff time. Or maybe you have a volunteer that does this. That's also really good. There's also time that needs to be focused on recruiting vendors. If you really want to make a go of this, you have to have more than 3 to 5 vendors to sustain your online farmers market store. So you might want to have somebody out in the community, checking out your local businesses. Who knows, maybe a restaurant that you work with makes these amazing sauces and they want to supply your online farmers market with that too. And there's artisans, you know, like stay-at-home moms who are making beautiful things. So now's the opportunity to get these kind of vendors and people that you may not have had time to do. So that's something to think about. There's also delivery and pickup coordination for time. So are you doing it at market? Do you have to have a specific role for somebody to put all of these orders together so your customer isn't picking up 5 different orders from 5 different vendors? There's also customer liaisons. So you might have some questions online. Some customers might come up to you at the farmers market with questions about the online farmers market. There's so many layers that you really need to think about when it comes to the cost. And then, of course, the big one, which is marketing and promotions. Who's paying for the email newsletters? You know, who's doing online ads? That's something that you need to consider. With that marketing and promotions, like the online email newsletter platforms, they cost money. Like ours, I think, is $45 a month. Like it's not cheap. And there's also Facebook and Instagram ads. Like you want to do all of this promotion. Maybe you're in the newspaper. So all of that adds up, especially if you're running it without an in-person farmers market and, you know, not generating those weekly vendor fees. Then there's the e-commerce platform fees themselves. Localline has a platform fee. You know, other websites like Shopify or Squarespace, they all have platform fees. So you need to think about in the future what is going to cover the cost of those platform fees. You can't just keep operating hoping that, you know, doing goodwill. It's awesome and it's amazing, but you do need to think about the future in terms of who's going to cover those fees. So we've got 2 operating models for you today to consider if you're already running an online farmers market or if you're thinking about jumping into this platform. So the first one we're going to talk to you about is the no-cost vendor option. So that means no cost to the vendor. The second one we're going to talk about is a vendor fee model, which we have 3 scenarios. One's charging a flat fee, one's percentage of vendor sales, and the other one is adding a margin. So we're going to go through each of these. The first one is a no vendor fee model. Some of you may already be doing this right now. So what you're doing is you're working in conjunction with an e-commerce platform and you're having the vendors upload their products. You're not charging a fee or anything for that service, even though the platform is under your farmers market brand. That's the key, guys. It's under your brand and you're not charging them for it. So it's not generating any revenue for the farmers market organization. So the vendors are continuing to upload products, you know, just like they would if they had their very own online store, which they would then be paying for themselves. And sometimes, you know, you've got your market staff helping them out, answering questions. If somebody has never been on this kind of service before, there's a lot of questions there that need to be answered and a lot of time spent. Sometimes markets will offer to have their very own pickup table at the farmers market so that, again, like I mentioned before, customers don't have to go line up vendor to vendor to vendor. They're trying to aggregate it and make it easier for them to pick up in one location. It's all about that customer convenience. That's key, guys. And then you've also got, you know, your staff and volunteer times that they're helping the vendors do all of this help with the customer orders. So with the no vendor fee model, guess what, guys? It's not financially viable for the farmers market to keep going with this e-commerce option. And I know you guys have big hearts and you love your farmers and you love your vendors and you just want to give them everything to get those products to the customers. But in the long run, it's not going to be feasible for you to sustain this model in the future. It's just not. So you're still covering the staff cost on your own, and you're going to be promoting it and marketing it and spending money that way. And the BC AFM, who have provided this generous grant for those of you with a Localline, that is a one-time grant. And I think Heather can probably speak to that.
You know, I just wanted to reinforce what Melissa was saying about covering your costs. And, you know, one of the big challenges in running a nonprofit, so BCFM or you guys running your markets as nonprofit societies or nonprofits that do kids programs or all kinds of social services, is always trying to figure out how do you recover the costs of doing what you do. So it's really important to be thinking about how do we recover the costs for the market for offering this service. And it's really a big service for that vendorship of your market they're benefiting from. So cost recovery, and even better, what kind of additional margin, if you will, or profit can be made so that you're sustaining the rest of your market as well, not just maybe the operations of this store. So just want to reinforce that, it's okay to be thinking enterprisingly. It's okay to be thinking about how do we make our organization, our society viable, nonprofit society viable and financially viable for the long term. And that's the way it's done, is thinking about these kinds of things and how do you quantify and charge accordingly and appropriately so everybody wins. The vendor's getting the great benefit of the service and the market's able to recover its costs. So moving along to the next options, which includes some kind of fee for service. So over to you, Melissa.
Okay, so we're going to talk about scenario A, which is charging a flat fee. So you've got to really wrap your head around the fact that you're providing this additional feature for vendors at your farmers market. This is additional. This is an amazing option that you're providing a whole group of business people at your farmers market. So if you're charging, let's say, $40 a stall per week for your farmers market, think of what that $40 fee would be for the month for that online presence. So you really need to sit down either with your treasurer or your board or your other staff and come up with what is the cost that it's going to take to run this operation for you. So you need to sit down, figure out that cost, and then bring it back to the vendors. So let's say you've got 3 vendors and your monthly fee you've decided is $40 a month. So then your revenue generation for that month will be $120. This may or may not cover your platform fee. It certainly won't cover staff time, but it's still helpful. It's still something. If you're a medium-sized market, you've got 30 vendors online, so you charge $40, then that's $1,200 a month in revenue for the farmers market. So you're doing your platform fee out of that. You're probably paying for staff time. Maybe you even hire an additional staff member to be that person, that go-to person. That's totally up to you. If you've got a really large farmers market, 95 vendors. I am telling you from experience, out of those 95 vendors, not everybody is going to know how to upload products online. So you're probably going to have to talk to on a regular basis a good 40% of that number, and you're going to need staff to be able to do that. So that $3,800 revenue per month from that additional feature that you're providing your vendors with is going to really come in handy when you're expanding this online market, when you're doing promotions for that online market. Just think of the amount of money that you can make for the vendors if you've got this amazing advertising budget for your farmers market. So scenario B, this one's a little bit different. So what you're doing is you're doing a percentage of vendor sales. A lot of the times vendors can be quite comfortable with that. And some of you are already doing this for farmers markets for vendor stall fees. So with vendor sales percentages, the more they make, the more your market makes. So it's a really great motivator to get out there and talk about your online farmers market, to get vendors talking about this additional revenue channel for themselves. So you can charge 2%, 5%, 10% fee, whatever is going to cover the cost of all the things that we talked about previously on sales per week. So if you've got, let's say, an average vendor sales per week is $150, we've listed there 2%, 5%, 10%. So your average revenue from those fees are going to be $360 per month, about to $1,200 per month. And that's very reasonable to cover some of the market's costs in sustaining and running this online farmers market store option. So, and your vendors might be really comfortable with this because, it's not so scary, because they might not make $150 per week. They might only make $20 per week on the farmers market store. But the more revenue you're able to generate, the more customers you'll be able to reach for bringing people back to shop online. So our next one might be a little controversial. It's a little bit different. It's adding a margin to the vendor products. So instead of taking a percentage, like let's say your farmer's market vendor sells a product for $5, instead of taking a percentage of that $5, you're now adding a margin to it. So you can add 15%, 20%, whatever you're comfortable with, and whatever covers the fees associated with running this kind of platform. Ourselves at Fraser North Farmers Market Society, we add a 20% margin to existing farmers market products from the vendors. So with that scenario, you really want to keep in mind that that 20% is going to incorporate some of the fees involved with running an online farmers market. For example, we pay all the credit card charges. So we pay 3% to Stripe for each credit card transaction, as well as 30 cents. So that adds up. Like our Stripe fees every month are quite hefty. So we have to make sure we cover that. Plus, you know, moving into the winter, we'll be paying a venue fee. Like there's a lot of venue fees and staff time and all of that stuff involved. And we found in our budget that we really couldn't do it without adding a 20%. So with that example, you've got, let's say, again, average sales $150 per week. So you're looking at, if you have 20 vendors on your online store, you could be making about $1,800 per month to $2,400 per month. And that covers the platform fees, that covers the credit card charges, you know, that covers your staff time. So you really have to think about how much you're going to dedicate to this online farmers market, how much your society or organization is going to dedicate to that, and work those costs into your budget. For vendors who are used to doing wholesale and retail, this isn't a new concept for them. For example, we have a soup mix vendor. They sell wholesale at $7.50. We sell retail at $9. Like that's just that they also sell it at $9, but because they are already in other stores, they get the fact that there is an additional charge for adding a margin to stores. The vendors are entirely in charge of setting their price with this model as well. So if they want to sell it for $5 and then have the market add an additional 20 or 15%, that's fine. Or if they want to lower their price a little bit and charge $4.50 and then have the market add a 15 to 20% margin, that's also fine. It is up to the vendor to set their prices and the amount of money that they're going to receive from all the customers purchasing their products. It's not up to the farmers market, it's up to them. So just to give you a little bit of an example of what things look like when you're adding a margin, again, we talked about we're not taking from the selling price, we're adding to it. So for example, in the spring, we had a lot of plants. So the farmers would sell them at $1.25. That would be their cost. So that's what we would be paying them. And then the price to the customer would be $1.50. A 20% margin on a $1.25 product really isn't that much. It's $1.50. And the customers we've experienced are fine with paying extra for the convenience of shopping online and picking up from the farmers market. I don't think we've ever had like a complaint that our prices are too high. It's all been like, oh, I'm really excited that we have this option to shop online. I feel safe. I love the convenience aspect, and we're going to pay a little bit extra more. And I believe that with like Instacart and all of those things, you're paying more anyway for that convenience. So just to let you know, in different scale here, the traditional retailers like Save on Foods and like Thrifties, all of those guys, their margin is a 40% markup on products. So vendors make less money at a large retailer than they would be on an online farmers market store where you're charging a 15% to 20% markup, which is literally covering your costs of running this operation, plus giving you a little bit more to sustain your operation in its entirety, which is really important because you need to be there to support the vendors. Oh, this is the fun part, you guys. So you may not have thought of it, but there are so many ways to add value if you have your very own online farmers market store. Again, think about it. It's not just your farmers market vendors that are here. This is your brand. This is your opportunity to shine and sell items that you may not even have thought of to sell. So what can we do to like add additional revenue to your farmers market stream? So for one thing, you're enhancing your customer service because they get to like go on this awesome website, check out all the stuff that's available, but you can also sell merchandise and memberships from your farmers market. So usually we average about 50 to 60 farmers market memberships like every year. This is like the Friends of the Farmers Market. This year in 5 months, we've doubled that easily. Like we added a checkout like on the online store saying, hey, do you want to spend $10 and become a member? And people click it and they like, it's a no-brainer. You don't have to have somebody sitting at the info desk saying, hey, do you want to buy a membership? You literally add it to your farmers market online store and people love to support you. You can sell gift certificates to people shopping at the online store. People can use that as gifts. We've done it as a giveaway for different community groups where we give them a $25 online gift certificate that brings more customers to the store. You can sign up customers for your e-newsletter. It's not making you money right away, but just having that email list. We started our farmers market store in May, and we decided to do a whole new email list. We had 0 subscriber, and now we're up to 2,200 in 5 months. And these are people who actively shop on our online farmers market store. Like that's a huge growth in 5 months. And then you can take advantage of the customers who are not shopping at your market. So the busy parents who, don't have time on Saturdays to pop in and spend, an hour talking to all the vendors. We recently did a survey, like I said, of our customers, and they find they spend 20% more shopping on the online farmers market store, buying products that they hadn't considered than being at the farmers market itself, because it's so easy to just click and click and click and, oh, I would totally love to have that soup, or oh, that maple syrup looks amazing. So it's just, there's all of these items on the store that are so available in the comfort of their home that make it so much easier to buy, and that's all additional revenue for your vendors. You also can work with a local company to offer delivery. We've recently launched delivery for our online farmers market store, and it's great. It's awesome. They charge their own fees. Our farmers market's not responsible for it, so the customers get charged directly, and they pick up their order at the farmers market and they just drop it off. These are folks that have been doing grocery and liquor delivery already in our community. So they all have COVID practices. They're already insured. So like working with those partnerships to enhance this yet another additional feature that you can offer your vendors. So if like Janet sells crafts and like she doesn't have the capacity to set up an online store, offer delivery to her customers, she can set that up through you and have her customers go there when the market isn't in operation on the day of. So how can you not charge for this amazing features that you're offering your vendor community? So what do you do now? What are the next steps? Definitely speak to your board to determine if an online farmers market store is a good additional feature to your existing market. Then you're going to want to do market research. So you want to ask your vendors, is this something they're interested in? Would they participate? Some of them are going to need a little bit of talking to. A lot of people love that face-to-face, market conversation with customers, but you have to let them know that this is an additional feature. This isn't the be-all and end-all. This is something that you're offering. Also ask your customers. Trust me, they're all going to be like, yes, do it. Then your next step is you need to identify a suitable e-commerce platform. There are lots out there. So you want to do your research, find out what the monthly charges are, take a look at what's happening and what other people are using, and see what you can use. This very much depends on how your staff or your board are comfortable with working online and working with different platforms. So you'll definitely want to make sure that your staff are comfortable with having this platform, learning about it, and helping vendors upload. then it's also a good idea to really sit down and decide which kind of model works for you. Are you doing an aggregator model like Fraser North is doing, where we get all the orders from the vendors and we put it together to distribute to customers? Or are you going to do a distributed vendor model like Localline, so where the vendors upload all their products and then they're mostly responsible for getting the products out to their customers? Or there's a centralized pickup point at the farmers market. So there's different things to consider. All of that information is online. BCAFM has a ton of resources available. They also currently have preferred pricing with Localline as a platform. So these are all things that you need to consider when you're going into your next step on starting your online farmers market store or sustaining it through another season. When you do have your online farmers market, you want to promote it. And again, the BCAFM is awesome for that. They've got, the farmers market trail where you can add your online farmers market, and then people can go and you can find it and shop and pay, and then you get to enjoy all the amazing stuff. So you want to spread the word, and if you've got questions, you can also ask the folks at the BCAFM. They'll often put their information or your information on their social media too. And then we all get to shop from BC farmers markets online or in person. It's win-win.
Thank you, Melissa. Heather, do you have anything to add?
Hey, I had a little technological difficulty. I had to log in and log out again. Okay, so I'm back. Perfect timing, Melissa. So I was just going to jump in there at the end, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so a couple things from that last slide around next steps. So, the e-commerce platforms are out there. Localline is the one that BCFM has chosen to work with for a couple of reasons. One is they're Canadian. Two, they would allow a market to choose a distributed vendor model or an aggregator. So you're not limited to just an aggregator or distributed, which in our case, most markets operate in a distributed vendor way. They've got multiple vendors selling independently under the umbrella of the market. So that was a really big deal. And most of our markets have chosen and needed to go or chosen to go with a distributed vendor model because it's how it works on the ground. So it's kind of how it works online, and it's easier to manage from a market standpoint, frankly. Less intensive than an aggregator, which is a bit more complex and costs a little bit more money in terms of time and staffing and stuff like that. So that said, people are going to be thinking what they need, and that's fine. Number two is, as we've noted in our recent newsletters to members, we've been able to extend the funding for the Localline platform and continue this for up to 6 months. And up to 50 markets, which is fantastic. So that for some of our markets, that's going to take them to the winter season now, into the holidays, especially in the time of COVID, when there's this uncertainty about the winter and the fall, that we have that option available and continuing, which is pretty great. And a lot of markets have said, yes, please continue to let us use that this winter, or they're going to pause and restart again next summer. So the purpose of this whole presentation has been really to paint a picture of sustainability, financial sustainability. And even with this funding extension, that will be running out, like I've just mentioned. And it's really important your market starts to think about now, like, how do you start to bake this into the way you do things? And bake this into the options for your vendors to pay for, obviously, to support it. And BCFM will still continue to get preferred pricing, which has also been shared with folks with Localline. They're developing this product and improving it and so forth. So as long as we have enough markets who are interested, then we will be eligible for some of that preferred pricing that we're able to share with the markets to keep your costs down, and therefore your vendor fees for that service down as well, probably too. Or not. So anyways, all to say that, think about this stuff in the context of trying to sustain your overall operations. And this little snippet, I think Melissa's painted a really good picture about why do this, why is it a good benefit, why is it important to consider this option if it's a good fit for your market. It won't be a fit for everybody, but for those who it is, there's a lot of upside to offering and adding this onto your market's services, like how you do what you do and operate. So it's pretty great. So we're going to be sharing this PowerPoint on our bcfarmersmarket.org website under our tools and resources area. This is the recording that we'll be able to share. You can watch at any time as well. So we thank you for listening to our recording, and hopefully this is helpful information for everybody. And I just wanted, again, big kudos, big shout out to our markets, all of them, during this very, very challenging season. So hooray for everybody for even just getting a market going this season, never mind adding an online store and modifying your markets in person. So, and a big shout out to the markets that thought, you know what, we're going to give this a chance, this e-commerce stuff. And for those who will continue with it, awesome. For those who won't, that's okay too. And just a really big thank you for rising to the challenge and really being ahead of the curve in terms of like just keep doing it and being resilient and making it happen really, really quickly in contrast to many other people out there. It's really, really admirable what our farmers market members have done always, but really, especially this year. So thank you so much for giving it a try and being so innovative. And thanks, Melissa and Gab, for hosting and presenting. Melissa, as always, you're just a wealth of information and real world person doing this on the ground. So you bring a lot of credibility to this whole thing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so I think we'll be signing off now.
Thank you both. That was awesome. Thanks. Bye.
Bye, everybody. Ciao for now.